Welcome to our first SIG meeting of the year. This is our bridge product update for 2021. That is all based on our release that happened last year around Thanksgiving Day. And the latest update of this document is the end of last year. And we're going to be covering in this meeting the products that we are included in OpenBridge Designer, as they are OpenBridge Modeler, LeapBridge Concrete, LeapBridge Steel, and OpenBridge. As you know, we have consolidated all our analytical and modeling engines into one product, OpenBridge Designer Connect Edition. Right? To go for that, so let's go over what was the latest enhancements that we have done in our latest release. So the latest release with OpenBridge Designer is this version, 10.09.0010. It's available on our server. Right? So still we have audio issues. That is not good at all. Some people can hear, some cannot. Sorry about that. Let me switch to a different microphone. Hold for a second. That latest enhancement that we have in OpenBridge Designer, that release happened, as I said, around Thanksgiving time. This is our latest release, 10.09.0010. And one of the major enhancements for OpenBridge Designer, and as you can see that we are consolidating our products into one OpenBridge Designer that contains the modeling part with OpenBridge Modeler, the analytics with Leap Concrete, Leap Steel, and OpenBridge. Right? So just keep in mind that these individual analytical solutions, the Leaps and the RMs, are not available anymore commercially. So if you need our analytical products, the software of choice should be OpenBridge Designer. Right? So the enhancements for that, it includes that now you can run multiple instances of OpenBridge Designer. We have enhanced the modeling and the Leap components as well, as you're going to see on this presentation. Now, as well, we have done a consolidation in our LeapBridge Concrete just for the BIM and standalone workflows that we have explained it in some other webinars and SIG meetings, the difference between running OBD, OpenBridge Designer, in two different workflows and how the connectivity is with Leap, right? So we have also consolidated in Leap the analysis factor dialogues that we used to have in multiple tabs. Now it's only one big screen, so you can get a, I would say, a global picture of the factors and settings that you use when you design with Leap. If you ever run the stability checks in LeapBridge Concrete, same, we have enhanced that part as well. So with new dialogues for that same process. Okay. Also, we have consolidated the abutment configuration dialogues. And now we have the ability to read custom girders from OBM. Remember that we have in OpenBridge Modeler, we have the option to read the Leap girders that they were coming as default, but then also you can create your custom ones. And then as you create these custom ones, Leap can take it. When you export to Leap, you just need to enter a few properties, and we're trying to recognize as much as they can, but you can also customize the properties too. Right? And then also diaphragms. As you will see in OpenBridge Modeler, we got the option to model diaphragms now in OBM, and that diaphragms were going to now be read by Leap for design. So we read the location, you just have to enter the loads that are coming with it. Right? Then as well, we used to be in OpenBridge Modeler that the barriers were just a graphical representation, but now when we transfer to Leap, we compute the concrete volume that the barrier in OBM generated, and we transfer that to Leap as a load as well. Before, there used to be a manual entry that you have to calculate. Now it's calculated automatic for you when you create it in OpenBridge and transfer to Leap. Right? For the ones dealing with Louisiana, there is some specific Louisiana factors that we have incorporated, and then you just can select it. Let's mute your lines, please. Okay, and then for complex bridge design for RM enhancements, this is a list that we can provide to you, right? We can just go over that. That we have enhanced the transfer of elements. We used to do that in multiple cross sections. Now the pre-stressed girder, if you need to calculate it into RM, you can just send it as a single cross section being manipulated there. So that makes it easier when you need to make modifications in RM, as it only has now one big cross section to deal with. Right? Now the build order as well. In when you create a segmental bridge in RM, you can set up there the build order or the construction order or the stage construction order, if you want to call it like that. Is that now you can do it in OpenBridge, and then that order is taken to the stage construction analysis in RM. You can reorder that, of course, but then again, it will give you a better picture if you can do it in OBM first and then transfer it to RM. Okay, so it's something that you can do as well. Now, a new feature on one of the action items that you have in RM, we added the ability to plot the moment curve diagram. And another structural change command for the element hinges action. We did this for Australia. I don't know if this pertains to this audience or not, but then we added a specific way to calculate the live load as they do it there, a new combination table regarding the Australian type of loads and how they classify it, and as well the seismic considerations. Right? And then now when you're searching for elements, right, and there's a lot of action items that you can do, and usually we just go down the list to trying to find which one to apply. Now it's reactive as we add a search routine or a find routine to that. Right? So now let's see what are the enhancements that are coming or were done for OpenBridge Modeler. Right? So same, it's part of the release again. This is the actual release date, same as OpenBridge Designer, November 30, as I told you, was around Thanksgiving. The important part is that it was built under the MicroStation platform, update 14. It includes a schema change. So again, as usual, the DGN files and all the properties are forward compatible, right? So if you have an old project, then as you open it with the new one, it will be upgraded automatically. You will not lose information, but again, it will upgrade what is called the schema or the way that it stores the information. Is certified from ProjectWise. Again, a lot of organizations are asking for that, what ProjectWise version is compatible. So we certify it for this version, and well, you can use it with the head versions, of course, but this is what it's certified on. Now, one of the primary enhancements that we have included in OpenBridge for this release, we got the ability now to model shear studs and fill splices in OpenBridge. We have enhanced as well the materials in the wizard. So before, when we have the bridge wizard, we can only model the bridge itself. But then now we added a tab in which you will see which we can apply materials, so you will build up your bridge, I would say, all in one shot. The same on the wizard. We used to have only eye roll shapes for the eye girders. Now you can do a built-up shape in the wizard and enhance it further using the beam tools in OpenBridge. Right? And then also in previous versions, we add you the option that you can modify the solids that were done with OpenBridge, but now we can mark this as it was a modified object, kind of give you a warning that this object was touched by hand, and the information inside, well, needs to be even recalculated or take it as face value, right? So let's keep going. So Shear Studs is now a new icon, right? You can create, we include as one item as part of the library. It is stored in a library as well, right? You can create your own and reuse it for the Shear Studs. And this is the tool to place it. Many options to place it, as you will see. And it becomes part of your bridge model. Right, so this is how you will place it. As the beam is done, so on the libraries, as I said, it's part of the item there. So you can create as many as you need and place it. Very basic to define the properties and the materials as well. And it's just a matter of adding one more into your library if you need more, right? There is options to edit, to copy on that Shear Studs. So the next step on that will be that to place it, of course, right? So you will just copy paste different options and just being able to place the shear stud as a connector type with picking different materials as well. Right? The graphics, as you can see, are reactive. So once it's all defined, it will be just a matter now to specify the option that you just want to place it. So the library is done. So when you go back home here, there is the option to say place shear studs. So it's a new feature as well. The new format or the new schema 10.09 allows for a feature definition and a feature symbology that needs to be updated or created. And so you can place it with that, and then this will be the tool to place it, right? But by distance, by different ratio, you can adjust the offsets for that too, and then how many rows per beam you want to apply. So it could be done in segments. So here we're going to place it all in one shot, all the same spacing for the entire beam. But as you can see, you got the option to add more rows. So on the same beam, you can place multiple configurations of shear studs, multiple spacings, even multiple or different shear studs too. So, and then control the, as I said, the number of rows and the spacing among them. Then after that, you can also copy that same layout to other beams and place the shear studs for the entire beam. Let's copy the arrangement to all the beams, save it, validate it, well, there is no mistake on that, and then save. So the shear studs will be placed, and then we'll also give you the quantities for this. Okay, so it's not just a graphical element, right? But we can quantify it and give you the number of shear studs in your bridge. Right? So we can do that as well. So these are with the shear studs, right? And these shear studs, they can transfer to lip bridge steel, right? And being used for design purposes too. But it's one way. If you need to modify the shear studs, you cannot do it in lip and expect to transfer back to OBM. It's just, as the slide said, it's just a one-way transfer from OBM to lip. And that's what, in tell you the truth, this is more or less what we're encouraging. If you want to modify, especially with the BIM workflow, any further modifications on the bridge, I'd rather do it on the BIM model rather than try send information back from the analytical engines. Some information is allowed, some information it cannot do it, right, because of the context on the modification that you're doing. So just to be, even myself, on the safe side, I will make any modifications on the BIM model. Right? And as I said, you just can issue a report and it will just tell you on the input echo report how you place it and the type you place it and the spacing that you use, and the quantities will give you the quantity of shear studs that were placed as well. Right? So it's active in both reports. Now, also, one of the other enhancements coming in OpenBridge Modeler was the ability to place fill splices into the bridge, right, and show it in 3D. Right? The fill splice, again, is part of the library. You can create your own, adjust it for the whole configuration, not only the bolts itself, but the web, top flange, and bottom flange thicknesses too. So it's part of the library that could be defined. And you can specify all the specs needed to build a fill splice. Right? One more time, different ways to place it, by ratio, by distance, controlling the when you want to place it, in what location you want to place it, right? Not only by distance, but a section break in the beam itself, it will automatically detect that and do it. You will do it for one beam, and then if you can copy that same configuration to others. And this will be the detail that is shown in 3D in your bridge, right? If there are filler plates needed, it will do it automatically in OpenBridge, right, for the top and bottom flanges, right? And then for the web, as I say, the difference in thickness will be split with two plates added on each side of the web. So this is taken care automatically too. And that's how we'll be at, right? For the not only that, on each fill splice, we will give you the properties that come up with it. So it's not just saying there is a fill splice here, but all the properties of every single plate and number of bolts on each plate and so on and so forth. I mean, right? Now, in order to place it, it's, again, define it first in the library. You can reuse a library that if you already have one. And then there is an option in the Home tab to place a fill splice right there. Right? So in the superstructure, place fill splice. One more time, there is a feature definition for fill splice on the 10.09 schema, a feature definition that comes with a feature symbology that needs to be set up. Of course, we include it in the software, but then again, DOTs in general setting up their own CAD standards, so we can just do it as well. Right? So we got this fill splice template that we created in our library. and we can review the creation of that. So it's one more item into the library. It's called Splices. And that definition, again, you can just set it up. Different materials, bolts, definitions, diameters. Here you're seeing a metric example. If you're in English units, of course, it will show in English. So you will define the entire geometry or properties needed to define the entire field splice, right? And pick the materials too. So this is part of the definition, right? So you will create a library of the field splice that you needed and just call it at a certain name. That will be used when, of course, you do the layout on the actual bridge. So you can create as many configurations as you needed. You see there are options to copy paste, and that's actually what I'm doing. So all these options are available too. So after you create it, right, the next step will be to place it. The diagrams help us on the definition of what each property means. And if I advance this a little bit now, I can go to the placement there, right? And after it's all being defined, now I'm ready to place the elements. So the same as the shear studs, it's very simple there. Just select the beam group in which I'm going to use it and set up the placement of splices in one beam that I can later copy to others. So different methodology, right? Maybe by support line, by ratio, by station. So it's up to you to design which is easier for your project. I like to go by support line and define the spacing and just add it that I have one, for example, at 5 units, 5 meters in this case, from that station and place the splice. Now I can just copy that definition to the rest. As I said, there's many different options that you can select. Just as a sample, these will give you that. And as you copy them, so now you can save it and the field splice will show up at the proper location. This is a separate entity into the OpenBridge Modeler. So if you need to delete it, you can just delete the complete field splice one by one or as a group, right? So this can be done too, right? And all these elements that are part of the field splice are also part of the reports. So you can quantify the amount of steel and bolts coming into that field splice as well. Now, all these enhancements that you have, right, are present on what we call the bridge decoration. So what is that? When we do a framing plan, well, we need to do the graphical representation of our deck, our beam layout, right? So as we added more elements, then all of these are placed at elevation 0. So basically in 2D. And as a reference, you can see we can seen it in previous version. We added the cross frames, right? Now you added as well the field splices. So you can see in 2D the location of the field splice, and then if you turn on the cross frames, well, you will see the cross frame as well. All in 2D, so ready to be placed on a 2D plan if you need to. And all of these are controlled as well by a feature symbology, so you can specify the symbology to accommodate or comply with your CAD standards. And as I said, they are all part of the reports of the data entry as well as the quantities. Yeah, there are certain limitations though. So all the plates have to be the same material, so you cannot have a field splice with one material or another unless you place a different one, right, or a different type. The transfer works to Liebridge Steel, so yes, you will send the location to Liebridge Steel, and Liebridge Steel could check the design of the field splice. But then, as I said, the transfer is one way only. So if I need to modify it, thicken a plate or something, then I would rather do it in OBM to keep consistency to the model. Right? So now some consideration on bridges with a very steep profile, right? So some of the beams, it's that consideration that the issues that the steel beams are drawn vertical to the work, they're plumb, so we need to do on the profile. Right? So this is going to be fixed on the next release, and these are the amount of field splices that you can do, and then the graphical representation too. Another enhancement is the Bridge Wizard. On the Bridge Wizard on steel, on previous version we can only do roll plates. Now you got the option to build from the get-go, build that beam. Later you can modify it if you need to hunch one of the beams or thicken plates here and there. You can do it, but at least we'll give you a quick entry on a bridge on how to do this. And then also you notice there is a tab here for materials, so you can specify specific materials for the different part of your bridge from the very beginning. Before, it was kind of tedious because we have to apply materials for every element that we place. Like if you got 10 piers, you got to specify materials for each one of the piers. But if you do it with the wizard, now you can do it directly. Right? So on the next tab, on materials, you can apply different materials to the different elements of your bridge, and these materials of course come from your materials library that you have defined in OpenBridge. Okay, now this happens when you modify it, right? So like for example, to modify the footings here, you can modify it in MicroStation. You got, as I told you before, you got the option to modify solids now, our solids in OpenBridge. But then we flag you and saying, hey, these elements have been touched. So the information showing here may not be the correct one. So just give you a warning on that. So you can modify it, but it comes with a certain caveat too. Right? And then multiple enhancements, right? If you're dealing with in big projects with digital twin, so we're sending more properties to the iModel, the iTwin, right? So we have access now to the component center in a MicroStation platform in general, right? So you can add elements coming from it. Another, I would call it nuisance, is that we used to what we call a wrapper. So all the elements in Bridge, to allow the selection, we used to put it on a default level, right? Not anymore. So we are trying to avoid this. So everything is on the same level internally as well and exposed to the user too, right? Another one that helps a lot on the framing plan is the barriers are now part of that 2D layout. Remember the framing plan with the field splices, the cross frames, the deck. So now actually we give you the lines in 2D or elevation 0 where the barriers go. Right? So with Synchronize, there is a button now in OpenBridge Modeler that is synchronized directly with the iTwins. So you can just send your model directly there. If you got this connection, and take the model and just do maybe the iTwins design review. So for the ones doing, again, these kind of projects in with all the disciplines get together into an iTwin. So now you can synchronize directly with your model and send it as many times you need it. Right? And we're sending a lot of properties to the digital twin now. So not only it's in OpenBridge, but then if you click in the iTwins into each element, we have a lot of the physical properties and information coming from OpenBridge to the iTwins. Right? There's a list of variables that we're sending there. Right? So I would say rather than variables, it's just a matter of checking in the iTwins what is coming through. So this is the list. And then we're adding more, right? As people require even reports and properties, we need to we know that we need to update more properties, and they are coming in future releases as well. Okay. This is the auxiliary component center. I would say OpenRoads was accessing that for quite some time. We added now in OpenBridge, so you are able to get these libraries from outside Bentley and incorporate it into your models. Right? There is a config variable that you need to activate it, and it's this one. But then if you go into our default configuration file that is delivered with the software, that variable and full syntax and access is already there. So if you have a custom setup, it's just a matter of copying that variable and point it to the right directories where all these elements that you download from these libraries will be present for you. Right? So this is what I mentioned, that there is no OBM elements anymore into the wrapper or default level. So we have streamlined the process and ease that option of going to update or turn off default and then be able to access the individual levels. Right? So that's a little bit easier on managing their CAD standards there. Right? And then that's what I call the component centers, that you have access to these sometimes high-end or very detailed cells that you can place into your bridge. Right? And then we added new cells just to illustrate the concept. Right? So handrails or drainage stuff that sometimes need to be placed. They are not going to use for design. Okay, so but again, for visualization purposes, you may need to add it. On the piles, now we're giving you as well the XY coordinates of the piles. We use just to give you a number, so now it's all of these options. Right? Again, these are the minor updates. Substructure properties in tooltips. When you highlight the pile, now it will give you all this extra information. Before we just give you, this is a pile type. Now we give you more. Right? On the steel beams, we will require, as was a user request, to give you as well the direction of the steel beam, especially when they have, so that they need, each beam needs to have a separate configuration or even following a certain alignment. So this is important that we give you that information too. And then on the deck as well, we just used to give you the deck volume of concrete. Now we can give you the deck surface area on the quantities reports. Right? This is extra in the sense that there are some filters we included by default in our standards, the American standards for steel profiles. Right? Now we included all different organizations. You can mix organizations. Right? Like for example, in Australia they use the American and sometimes the British one at the same time in the same project. So you can activate 2 of these steel profiles per project. Right? So you can have, I would say, multiple countries on that. This is the 2D outlines that I mentioned. Right? So it's shown now in 2D. And all these decorations, the extensive decorations that we have, it could be turn it off and on and have their own symbology if you define the proper feature definition too. Then just to finish this, when we import alignments now, if you ever need to import alignments, now we got the option directly to assign a feature definition. Right? Before, well, we have to import the alignment, and then you have to select it and assign a feature to it. Now you can do it from just the process of importing. And then it will just show direct. There is no extra step needed for that. Another ancillary one, we label every beam too. Before it was just lines, so now we just label every beam so you know when we talk what is beam left, what is beam right, direction of stationing and all of that. And this came from the previous release, but I think it's worth showing that we can place diaphragms now into our bridge, into the precast concrete bridge, right? We can place diaphragms there and adjust it, different spacing, different dimensions, and it's a matter of defining this into. There are different considerations on the offsets from the beam top, from the beam bottom. There is a lot of detailed, more information into our YouTube channel. We explain this, how all of this is being considered, right? But to place it is just a matter of selecting. Place diaphragms is a new option here, and you can do it by base on the concrete and then copy that. Right? As I said, it could be different spacing. Each diaphragm could even have their own skew angle. Right? Just place it. Right? So, and these diaphragms, again, they're concrete elements, they're solid elements, so they will come in your plans if you ever cut a section to it. It will come in your quantities, and it will transfer to Lead Bridge Concrete for further design for that. Right? What we do is we define a certain spacing to it, right? And then we can copy that definition to all these other beams. And there is a question coming that is worth answering now. Is what about if we can place electric ducts or other utilities? Well, you can place it. Remember, at the end, all these elements that are coming here are microstation elements. So there are extra utilities that may come, lighting poles, overhead signs, and all of that. Remember, this is all available in microstation. So after the bridge is modeled, you can add, I would say, anything you want with microstation. That is part of OpenBridge, so it will just be a matter of adding more 3D elements that could be decorations or not, if you consider that, and be added, right? So these are the considerations that I was talking about on the diaphragms, what is considered the top offset, bottom offsets. You can regulate that for the diaphragms as you place it, and then this will be part of that definition here, and then you can specify the spacing and place the diaphragms there. So this will be the typical definition, right, of the diaphragm, or I would say the geometry of the diaphragm, right? That's what this previous screenshot was on the top vertical, bottom vertical, and what it means. Right? The next definition will be that along the support line, what distance you want to consider the diaphragm. So it will be a spacing for that. And then you can add it to the list. Right? So that will be one spacing, two spacings, and then after that, I will just copy that to the rest of the spacing between the beams, and it will just be placed. So we just need to enter again the dimensions for the offsets. That could be the same or could be different at the beginning, at the end of the beams, right? And specify that. We're almost getting to the top of the hour. There, and then on that we enter the spacing for this, right? So along the support line, I want 1, right? And then keep adding more, so more spacing if I need to, or as a bulk. And if I add 1 just to test, you will see that will be 1 line of diaphragms applied at that specific location. Right. And that separation is the offset that I just defined for it, right? So if I need more, right, I will just copy them to the rest of the beams, and it will place it across. Right? And again, different thicknesses, and so many options to place that. And then, as I said, this came from the previous release, but I think I wanted to show you that because we're still asking questions if we can do diaphragms or not. Right? So you can specify, so you can see the angles, the spacing, the materials, right? So, and this could be done in bulk or in different spacing, as you can see. Right, and for that, I think this is all we have for today. I leave you with this. If you have any questions, there is a chat window that is active. If you go to the upper right of your screen, right, it will show up a chat window there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type it. It's coming questions, I think. Let me see. Oh, thank you.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.